you could get that buffed out.
The first Bad Guys came out in 1995, and they became the debut for an unknown music video director at that time, Michael Bay. The film, with a budget of $19 million, brought in solid revenue, which allowed Bay to continue his career in feature films, and the following year to shoot one of the best action films in the history of cinema, The Rock, which also had box office success and opened the way for Bay to high-budget cinema, postponing the continuation of Bad Guys all the way to in 2003. Although the second part was warmly welcomed by the audience, it did not bring decent money, so they decided to forget about the prequel for 18 years, and only in 2019 the project was launched. Bay refused to direct, limiting himself to only a cameo role in the film, and if the first two films still look fresh and cheerful, the third part is another mediocre film created solely to raise the box office due to the success of the first two parts. And judging by the fees, it worked. It is possible to understand how much the film is a masterpiece only because one of the producers is Doug Bedrock, who produced such movie trash as Zombieland, Control Shot, and New Charlie's Angels. So we'll have to drink again to the Will Smith movie with logic that won't be there. The film begins very cheerfully and at maximum steepness. The older, but still cool and homey cops are rushing somewhere, gathering half of the Miami cops on their tail, and provoking a chase involving dozens of cars, helicopters, and even the Coast Guard. The men were forced by the birth of Marcus's granddaughter. Already the 6th decade has gone. And Mike is still trying to seem like a cool guy, although he has to think about which pharmacy to buy ointment for joints. And as soon as Mike parks at the hospital, all 5 stars of the chase immediately disappear. But since the buddies and the cops are fine and everything is great for them, it would be necessary to create serious problems for them. So in a Mexican prison, a thug witch woman is preparing to escape. Well, how it prepares, it just does. First, for some reason, he forces the guard to smell his fingers, makes a couple dozen knife holes in her, and immediately, as if by order, the guards throw the surveillance camera post so that the villain could quietly change into a wounded guard without any problems. And now they are already taking her outside the prison. Although it is forbidden to carry the seriously wounded, they would have made it even worse just lying on a gurney, but here she is just drunk under the handles. The witch in the ambulance sits on the knife of the paramedics, and the native son who arrived to support shoots the last doctor, not afraid that he will hook the mother who was behind him. And there is no reason to arrange a vacation from prison, in which a juicy lady has spent the last 24 years, get drunk there and call the men. The MILF plunges headlong into business, decides to take revenge on all old enemies with the help of her son. One of the enemies turns out to be Mike Lowry, who has long worked undercover in her husband's cartel, fucked her, and was involved in her arrest. But most importantly, a super Mexican twist from soap operas from the 90s, Mike turns out to be the father of this amigo. Yes, of course, amigo does not know what his eggs were sprayed into his mother, but judging by how famously he deals with bandos, in addition to Mike's sperm, there were also Flash, Jason Bourne, and Riddick. And while Sonny is overgrown with forgeries, money, and connections, celebrating his granddaughter's birthday, Mike and Marcus, after drinking a glass of whiskey, decide to prove that they are not ready to go into the category of old farts yet. But giving Mike the opportunity to show that he is in better shape than Marcus is hindered by his son, who hits the main character for the first and last time, and that is absolutely not fatal. And he thought of shooting a cop when he was walking with his department. Well, either amigo is super confident or super dumb, and he will bring down everyone else from the screw cutter and from a distance. Besides, it wasn't the best idea on the part of the MILF to send someone to kill who didn't know about the control headshot. And as it turns out later, the mom wanted Mike to be the last, and suffered while his friends and colleagues were being killed. And if that's the case, why the hell did the son start with him? Marcus retires, and while he enjoys all the benefits of a pensioner, eats fast food, watches comedies, and breaks the home interior, Mike, recovering from his injury, goes in search of the shooter. And he would have sat for the rest of his life without a result if Sonny hadn't been a complete idiot, because he thought of shooting not with ordinary decommissioned cartridges, but with hand-assembled ones. And as soon as Mike goes to the first informant he drains the collector in one fell swoop. This is what kind of sheep you need to be to use cartridges that are easy to track. And Mike, smug to the skies, in a leather jacket sewn from a curtain, goes to the captain, who, as he was a slob in previous parts, remained, since he was unable to discipline one employee for meddling in the investigation. And knowing that this fruit will not back down, The captain allows him to join the group that is officially leading this case. And after getting to know each other, it is internationally tolerant not to offend anyone. Young people, together with Grandpa Mike, is sent to catch the seller with cartridges, who, of course, makes a new deal today. And only Mike's experienced eye immediately notices unexpected shit. And without coordinating actions and working out at least a preliminary plan, Mike, wearing a toy bulletproof vest with one pistol and in one snout, runs against a bunch of bandits and Mike's boss and ex-girlfriend, as without this, gives him only one pair of boobs to help. Well, the fire started. The fire started. Where hundreds of bullets fired at Mike, according to the good old tradition of the franchise, fly by. I think Mike got shot last time because he wasn't wearing a fancy bulletproof leather jacket. Moreover, Mike is not looking for easy ways. There would be no way to shoot an asshole a second ago. He starts fucking in the elevator, creatively, but in a moronic way. And how about without blunt-horned bots coming close to the trunks? And an accidentally fired bullet provokes an apocalypse of unprecedented proportions. And so an important witness leaves for the next world. And from that second on, the intensity of delirium in the film begins to gain momentum. Another informant comes out to Marcus, so the boys reunite, and at full speed, at supersonic speed of 40 kilometers per hour, they rush to the informer, stopping at every traffic light in parallel. Big deal, a guy who's about to be attacked by the shooter who tried to kill Mike. Therefore, you can take your time, as well as call the police so that they send the nearest patrol to him. And thanks to the double Moronism, the cops are late, allowing the informant to show what the gravity of the earth is capable of. Because of such a puncture, this is clearly an achievement. Brothers in bad luck. And while Marcus is coping, Mike runs into the building to intercept the bandit, and having a gun with him, takes and pushes the killer out of the third floor, right onto the concrete floor, without any injuries or fractures. And a mega cool kid who laid 5 men at a time with his bare hands is screwing up against a 50-year-old Mike. In general, another seemingly cool antagonist, but completely helpless in the field of view of the main character. Somehow getting rid of a couple of middle-aged cops, Amigo disappears into thin air, and a few days later lies in ambush to kill Mike and the captain. And if he kills the captain without delay, then when it comes to Mike, he starts scratching his balls, waiting for the target to hide behind the wheelbarrow. That's right, apparently while the mom was doing time, the son was completely playing tricks in a nut house. And only after the murder of the captain, the special squad moved. Before that, it was not clear what they were doing at all. Marcus returns to the department, and a team of reptiles of all stripes goes to the club to interrogate an arms dealer who probably knows who the shooter is, and when it is necessary to detain a dangerous bandit, knowing his exact location, there is not even a question about storming the club with an entire unit. They also take these 2 with them, whose faces even small drug dealers know in Miami, and it would be better if these pensioners were left in the van, because instead of handcuffing the pest, 2 clowns start doing shit. And Rodriguez knocks down, pushing Mike aside, and already on a motorcycle he knocks away, because the imbecile cops did not think to block the exits from the club. Well, then everything is according to the rules of the militants of the 90s. We steal the car of a random poor guy and chase after the asshole because it is necessary to call a reinforcement car and helicopters as well as block the streets. We'll manage on our own somehow, especially when everyone was given rubber bullets before the operation. Well, the shooter is shot with a rubber bullet and only his ass is stuffed into the car, as the Amigo Brigade is announced, from whose actions the fart warms up so that you can have a quick snack. Instead of aiming to shoot the cops and save the boss, the sheep shoot at the car and dance around it, after which the Ram syndrome shifts to Marcus, who loses Rodriguez because at the wrong time he decided to remember God, plus 2 friends of the pensioner forgot about handcuffs, and these are the coolest Miami cops capable of to detain even one small slap. Well, it's time for a cheap action movie. The explosion of a grenade right under the ass of the moped just lifts it up, without any consequences for the passengers and the moped itself, followed by a scene that causes only laughter, a couple of shots, and the car detonates like a piece of explosives. Oh, Michael Bay, why the hell would you be a Toastmaster? They're burying your brainchild here without you. In the midst of the chase, like a fast hurricane, the clown's son showed up, and Mike, like hell, manages to react to the shot of a rocket, whose speed is 300 meters per second. And then I don't even know what diagnosis to make. Rodriguez jumps onto the helicopter ladder, Mike follows, and the illegitimate son can't hit him when he's right in the palm of his hand, and the explosion of balloons adds motivation to Mike, but not mutilation. That's what it means to dress in normal clothes before the fight, and I don't even know what prompted Mike to jump on a helicopter. What he was going to do there without a weapon, well, maybe now, when Sonny has already taken aim at Mike, he will still fill him up. Marcus keeps up with a machine gun, and instead of smiling, it would be better to continue shooting. Maybe he would have knocked down the chopper and gone home. But Sonny just flies away with his first unique achievement. The fucker loves Trinity. And it's only thanks to a pretentious MILF who couldn't calmly kill Mike, but wanted her son to tell him their personal phrase before he died. Mike gets into who's hunting him, but the dumbest thing is, he suddenly decides that the shooter is his offspring. You also need to say that he's the same retard as you. How can you think that the shooter is his son if he is a pure Mexican, and Mike is a little from another tube of paint, and Mike has only seen a photo of his son in infancy? The exact age of the shooter is unknown. Maybe he's a vegan, so he looks young, and Mike doesn't even want to admit that the shooter is an ordinary cartel mercenary, no son, period. So what is the coolest cop on planet Earth going to do with the information he receives? Another bullshit. He doesn't report to his superiors, but flies alone to Mexico. And so that his senile head wouldn't be shot through the nearest corner, Marcus and the youngsters clung to him, because everyone has plenty of free time and a great desire to die at the hands of cartel thugs while Mike solves family problems. And the Mexican MILF also gave a fuck, personally showed up for the meeting, not afraid of an ambush, knowing at the same time that Mike was working as a cop, that it was so difficult to send a couple of people and take him to a safe place like all normal drug dealers do, and the whole plan of pensioners and youngsters was that while Mike would be talking to an ex-girlfriend, Marcus alone will enter the building unnoticed and arrest her. But something did not go according to plan, because the Miami jerk somehow did not calculate such a simple course of events that the owner of the cartel would not come to meet them alone. And while everyone is pointing guns at each other, salvation comes into play on the verge of a foul, where the Malacasos thought of blowing up the floor right where the heroes were standing. But the leather jacket does its job, everyone is safe and sound. But the final shootout looks like a term paper by a freshman at the Academy of Cinema. Negative ones shoot at milk wherever, they can't even hit anyone in the shoulder. The positive ones are right on target because the directors forbade the jerks from the cartel to use the shelter. Even when an IT technician, as if in training, alternately works out punches on bots and knocks down a stone column with his body, it looks like a masterpiece of cheap staging. Everything is so shabby and hackneyed that even a wooden table was used as a shelter, and this is nowadays. There is even a millipistric drone with 2 pistols on remote shooting. Mike uses a human shield against the 47th Kalash. Didn't the writers and directors have any fresh ideas? Although, considering that the film was shot in Mexico, the world capital of cocaine, it becomes clear where the inspiration came from. And further confirmation of this. Mike and Marcus run after the MILF and her son to prevent them from leaving in a helicopter, which is immediately shot down. And not only does it explode inside the building, as if there were several napalm bombs inside it, but also the young people who were right next to the helicopter, surviving when the entire building was engulfed in fire. And having got stoned to the limit, the screenwriters continued to smoke further. The bad boys find their mom, and the son, hiding on the floor below, pulls Mike to himself through the ceiling, which is several meters away. And here, because of the poor lighting, you really can't make out a damn thing. At first I thought that my son stood on the table, since here he is right under the ceiling, but in the next frame he lands on the floor, and there is nothing nearby that allowed I'd like to climb up to the ceiling and grab Mike. And in the end, we have one of the most amateurish productions. The dude just jumped up, punched through the ceiling with his hand, caught Mike by the leg and pulled him down. I don't even know how he explained it to his mother. Stay here, mother, and I'm on the floor below so that I can grab this goat by the leg when he targets you. And stupid Marcus forgot that there was a dangerous criminal next to him, and starting to watch the fight through the hole. And the MILF, like a cold-blooded killer, instead of cutting Marcus's throat, cuts only his limbs, for which Marcus adds a traumatic brain injury to her magnificent tits. Does it hurt? It must hurt. Mike almost puts his son to sleep, but suddenly decides that now is the right time for an appreciative conversation. What prevented you from first tying up an evil son, and then calmly proving that you are at least his father, at least an identical twin? And how is it that a chronic womanizer and egoist suddenly woke up to fatherly qualities? If this body grew out of his sperm, then you should immediately be related to him, and not completely strangers to each other. Knock him down and that's it. Yes, for Mike, he must be another criminal who also killed his friend the captain, and tried to kill him several times. After all, I didn't even think that Amigo would react a little differently to such news. I don't care who you are, the father is the one who raised you, not the one who conceived you. But since there is an action movie about a decent drug cartel, the awakened mother confirms everything without even trying to fuck. Amigo is instantly infatuated with love for his father and shields him from the bullet. After all, Dad is an American cop with money and will easily break through American citizenship. A multi-pass from a Mexican boy, and the MILF, not noticing a girl with a machine gun right in front of her, goes to the grill for roasting. Cool pensioners take out a wounded kid, and Mike can't get enough of the fact that at 51 he finally got a 23-year-old sadistic son. Sonny flies into the bunks for the murder of a police captain and a bunch of law enforcement officers, as expected. But since his dad is now a cop, several life sentences without the right to pardon turn into the prospect of early release. After all, Daddy was in a hurry, and if the ruthless killer helps in the investigation of other cases, he will be released even before he needs Viagra. Sure, but it's definitely the achievement of a cop's son.